In the autumn of 1848, workers came to demolish the abandoned St. Mary's Academy in Salem, Massachusetts. They expected to find dust and silence. Instead, under the chapel floor, they found a sealed metal box. Inside were 47 small leather books, each one marked with a girl's name. These journals described horrors too dark to believe. Alongside them was a list of clients, important men from politics, religion, and wealth, names that carried power. The government sealed everything, claiming it was for public safety. The records were locked away, never shown again. But the truth did not vanish. It whispered through walls and waited for someone to listen. These words come from hidden pages, from those who were silenced. This is not just a story. It is a warning. If you seek truth, even in shadows, listen closely. But know this: once you learn what happened here, you will not forget. In 1811, Salem tried to rebuild its name. The old stain of the witch trials still lingered. People wanted to appear pure and godly. Then Victoria Fairfax arrived, tall, elegant, with steel-gray eyes, a widow with wealth. She came with a plan to create a school for girls, a place of learning, structure, and strict moral rules. She called it St. Mary's Academy for young ladies. The town praised her vision. She promised education for poor girls and paid seats for the daughters of good families, reading, sewing, music, and discipline, a place where innocence would be protected. She bought an old mansion on Beacon Hill. It had stood empty for years. Some said it was cursed. Families left quickly, whispering about strange sounds and heavy air. Victoria ignored them. She repaired the building, added a chapel, built dormitories, made quiet rooms on the third floor. She called them meditation spaces. She was not alone. Her sister Evangeline joined her, pale, shaky, but with a voice like heaven. She taught songs and languages. Then came Bartholomew Fairfax, a preacher with sharp eyes and cold words. He spoke of sin and Satan's tricks. Parents felt both fear and trust. The academy opened with ceremony. A bishop came. So did the mayor. Victoria stood tall, her black dress swaying in the wind. She promised safety and growth. The first students arrived. 23 girls. Some paid. Others were taken in free. 3 among them stood out. Margaret Sullivan, red-haired, clever. Orphaned in a fire. Found working in a mill. Priscilla Morse, silent, book-loving. Her father lost at sea. Her mother taken by illness. Hannah Whitmore, forgotten. Her father jailed. Her mother gone, living in the poorhouse until Victoria came. These girls believed they had been saved. But the walls they walked into hid something dark. It began slowly. A woman named Mrs. Thornton, a seamstress, delivered clothes to the school. She noticed things. Gentlemen arriving at strange hours, always through the side door, always in secret, expensive carriages, quiet shadows. Then she saw the girls change. Once bright faces grew pale. Once curious eyes turned hollow. She saw bruises, heard whispers. Margaret, once cheerful, became silent. Her hair lost its shine. Her gaze turned distant. One night, Mrs. Thornton could not sleep. She looked out her window and saw lights dancing in the chapel. Not candlelight, more like fire. Then she heard sounds, screams, short, sharp, and human. She watched figures move behind stained glass. The screams lasted nearly an hour, then silence, deep and still. 3 days later, she learned Hannah had died. Victoria wore mourning clothes, but her face showed no sorrow. She said Hannah had caught a fever. The funeral was quick, private. No family came. The girls sang hymns that shook with fear, not grief. More girls fell ill. They moved slowly, spoke rarely, always the poorest ones. Margaret watched it happen. She began to see patterns. Certain girls were called for special instruction on the third floor, always after dinner, always late into the night. When they returned, they looked dazed. Margaret noticed something else. These sessions matched the nights when the mysterious men arrived. The same side door, the same quiet footsteps, the same disappearing carriages. The academy's schedule was strict. Morning prayers, cold meals, long classes, evening silence, no time for friendship, no room for talk. Punishments came swiftly for those who whispered. But Margaret kept thinking. She watched, she listened, she learned. Some girls spoke of strange tea. It made them dizzy. Then they wore white gowns, not uniforms, not dresses, something like burial cloth. Then came the rituals, candles, smoke, words in languages they did not know. The men sat in chairs, watching, sometimes speaking, always hungry with their eyes. Margaret knew this was not school. This was something else, a trap, a place where spirits were broken, minds were dulled, bodies were used. Deaths were not accidents, they were part of the plan. Then came Miss Constance Hartwell, a new teacher, young, smart, from Boston. She believed in real learning. She noticed the girls' silence, their shaking hands, their dull eyes. One girl, Sarah, told her, "My thoughts feel cloudy. They say it is my soul becoming clean, but I used to think better before I came here." Constance grew suspicious. She tried to explore the top floor. Victoria stopped her, said it was sacred, said she should not interfere. But Constance knew something was wrong. One night, she saw Margaret sneaking through the halls, dressed in white, listening at the side door. Their eyes met. The next day, Margaret stayed after class. She told Constance everything about the tea, the rituals, the deaths, the clients. She said, "They are not just hurting us, they are destroying us, our thoughts, our will, our lives." Constance was horrified, but she believed her. They began to work together. Constance had access to Victoria's office. Margaret knew how to unlock drawers. Together they found the ledgers. Girls listed by number, notes on their progress, like merchandise, like animals. Some girls were marked resistant, others ready. There were letters, too, from clients, requests for girls, descriptions of taste, payments sent. One said, "She is nearly ready. The training has worked. You will be pleased." It was all planned, precise, ruthless. They knew they had to act, but they were being watched. Victoria asked questions, polite but sharp. Bartholomew stared longer than usual. Then another girl died. Elizabeth, 14. She had not been ill. She just did not wake up. Margaret said she had been to 3 special sessions before. She had begged to write to her family. Evangeline said no, said it would ruin her soul's growth. That night, Constance made a choice. She would hide in the 3rd floor and watch. Margaret would be inside the ritual. They would see it with their own eyes. She faked a headache, said she would rest, then climbed the servant stairs. The floor was dim, the air heavy. She hid inside a closet, waited. At 9, the ceremony began. Evangeline entered with tea. Bartholomew wore robes. Victoria followed in purple silk, covered in strange symbols. The girls were led in, all in white, moving like sleepwalkers. Then the men came, rich, powerful, familiar. Some were judges, some lawmakers. They sat, watched, took part. What followed was not learning, not prayer. It was a performance of pain, guided by Bartholomew's voice, surrounded by Evangeline's music, orchestrated by Victoria. The girls were used like tools, sacred objects twisted for pleasure. When it ended, the men left, the room emptied. Constance stayed hidden, sick with truth. She had seen everything, but she knew proof alone was not enough. These people had power, money, allies. Their names opened doors. Hers did not. Still, they had to try. A few days later, Constance received a note from Victoria. A meeting, after chapel. Her heart sank. She feared the end had come. During the service, she saw Margaret, drugged, empty. When their eyes met, Margaret's look said everything. They had been found out. Constance went to Victoria's office. The door closed behind her. Victoria smiled, but her eyes were cold. She opened a folder. Inside were Constance's notes, her maps, her writings. She said, "We have watched you since the start. You were useful. You showed us our weak spots." Then Bartholomew entered. Two strong men followed. They said Margaret had confessed, had told them everything. Constance felt betrayed, broken. But then came shouting. Boots in the hall. The door burst open. Police in blue uniforms filled the room. Margaret walked in behind them, eyes burning, alive, strong. She said, "I lied to them, gave them what they wanted. Then I escaped, told the truth, gave names, gave dates, gave proof." The officers arrested Victoria, Bartholomew, and Evangeline. They found the doctor, too. They searched the building, found everything. Clients were named, some ran, some hiding, some were forced to face what they had done. Mrs. Thornton, the seamstress, came forward. Her records matched everything. She had written it all down. She had not been believed before. Now she became the key. The trial was long. The nation watched. Victoria tried to blame others. Bartholomew claimed it was religion. Evangeline was found drugged beyond thought. The clients were many. Some escaped. Some were ruined. But the truth had come out. Victoria and Bartholomew were sentenced to hang. It happened in front of thousands. Margaret became a symbol. She opened her own school, a real one, for poor girls. It lasted decades. Constance returned to Boston, built a school with her husband. They taught freedom, not fear. The academy was torn down. A park was built. A stone was placed. It listed 43 names. The girls who died, the ones who could not escape. The law changed. Schools were checked. Secrets became harder to hide. But the lesson remained. Evil wears a mask. It smiles. It prays. It teaches. But behind the smile, the eyes are always hungry. And the only weapon against it is truth.